Here we are for our final Road to Sweden wrap up. Today is Tuesday. I lifted last Thursday in Sweden. We're now in Copenhagen for a couple of days before heading home. And we figured now is as good of time as any to get this recorded. So we'll go through sort of how everything went leading up to the week of Worlds, at Worlds. I'm sure most of you have seen the results by now. I finished in second place in the 72 kilo weight class. So the last week of training, I think we did an update just sort of the end of week 14, I believe, before I had done my last week of training. So my last week of training, Monday we did just some light raw stuff, just basically to move. And then I did my openers for all three on Thursday. That day went pretty well. Squat 245. Depth was more or less there, sort of. It was a 2-to-1 call, we call it. It might have been okay, might not have been. Bench, I did 175, which was sort of my option A opener. And then we went 180.5, which was my option B opener. 175, there was a little bit of sort of a jerk on the press. My touch had been not perfect, and with equip benching, if the touch isn't perfect, the press is very rarely perfect. So I knew that if I fixed that, it would move much more smoothly. So 180.5 did move much more smoothly, and that was my planned opener for Worlds. Then deadlifts felt really good. 195 moved solid, and left it there. So all in all, was happy with how things were feeling there. My body weight that day was 72 kilos. Sort of the week before, it had just continually been dropping. So sort of all that week we were just upping my macros because I didn't want my weight to drop anymore. So Thursday was openers. We were around Friday, Saturday. Then Sunday was our start of our travel day. When we got to Copenhagen, we took the train, which is about a 2-hour train ride, to Halmstad. We got into Halmstad mid-afternoon on Monday, so I think it worked out to be around a 24-hour travel time. I tried to spend a little bit of time just in sunlight Monday afternoon, just to get my body accustomed to, okay, it's still daytime, even though it gets dark here crazy early, like between 4 and 5. So I had slept a little bit on the Toronto-Zurich flight, probably maybe 3 hours at best. I don't think that long. But basically it was just like, okay, we need to get through to Monday night and then have a solid sleep Monday night. Monday we went to the venue, just checked it out very briefly, watched a little bit of the 57 kilo weight class lifting, and then headed back to the hotel. We got a meal in there and went to bed pretty early. I think we were in bed and asleep by like 9, and slept until 11 the next morning. The one thing that I've started doing a couple of years ago with overnight flights and traveling to try and deal with jet lag is started taking Z-Quil to try and help sleep on the flight if I have long enough. I didn't take it on the flight this time just because by the time I was feeling ready to fall asleep, there was only like 3 hours of the flight left. I didn't want to get there and feel super groggy. So, but Monday night when we were in Halmstad, took some Z-Quil, helped me sleep. Lots of times that first night of trying to sleep, I find it'll be really choppy. But the Z-Quil just knocked me out. And like I said, Brian and I both woke up like 11 the next morning and I felt super rested, which was good. That day, Tuesday, went to CrossFit Halmstad and did my last workout. Just some raw stuff. I think we worked up to like 154 squat, 110 bench, and like 150 deadlift. Things felt like they were moving a little bit more slowly than I would like them to have been, but I blamed that on just still being a little bit tired from the travel, and felt like 2 more days of solid sleeps would really help me to feel refreshed and ready to go. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday was more just relaxing. Wednesday morning I woke up and I was under 71. I think it was like 70.9 or 70.8. which was quite a bit lighter than I wanted to be and should have been. So Wednesday, I just sort of ate as much food as I could. When traveling, I do bring a fair bit of food with me, and we had stopped at a grocery store on Monday as well, so that I can eat sort of as normal as possible with maybe one meal out a day. So I ate tons of like oatmeal, fruit, bars, things like that, nuts, so that my body was like, yeah, I'm used to this food, and feeling good. Wednesday night, Aaron Ziffel, one of my training partners, was competing, so I was at the venue Wednesday night, watching and supporting him. And then we got back to the hotel and just made sure that all my bags were packed and I had everything ready to go for the morning. I had a super solid sleep Wednesday night. Again, the next 2 days I did take ZQL before bed just to try and sort of encourage that solid sleep. And woke up around 7 on Thursday morning. My weigh-in was at 8. I just checked my weight at the hotel and was under 71 again. So just sort of left it there and let it be. Headed to the venue. Weigh-ins, like I said, were at 8. There was only 7 of us in our flight, so they went super fast. Had tons of time to start getting liquid and food into me. Body was feeling really good. So weighed in officially at 70.95. So that morning, before competing, I ate a bowl of oatmeal. It had some protein powder in it, some banana, some honey. I didn't quite get through that whole thing. I did my best, but I don't eat super well on meet day, or it's hard for me to eat. I know that I compete really well eating like Cliff gels and Cliff blocks, just quick energy, super concentrated carbs really, in a little pack that's like maybe 30 grams. It's got 25 grams of carbs, so I know that those agree with my body, and I can just sort of shove one in between lifts and keep energy up throughout the day. I have a little bit of caffeine before I started and just sort of take in the form of caffeine pills. I think I took 3 or 4 sort of throughout the day, so 400 milligrams before I started competing, and then I think Ryan gave me one before benches or during bench warm-ups as well. So maybe around like 600 milligrams of caffeine that day. Tons of fluids. I drank some Gatorade as well as some Noon tabs, which are just electrolyte tabs, to try and sort of prevent anything from cramping. Warm-ups for squats felt really good. Everything was moving like it should. Put the suit on. It felt good. Felt it was fitting like it should be. So my last warm-up was 235. It felt good. It was really close to depth. So we left my opener as it was and sort of left the suit where it was. Stuck with 245 for my opener on squat. Opening squat was a successful lift. Basically going into the day, I knew I would have to make the majority of my lifts in order to have a shot at gold. So 245 squat was successful. The plan had been, if everything looked good, to go 255.5 on my second squat, which was to break the world record squat. Apparently, myself and Kelsey McCarthy from the States had the same plan. She opened at 250 and then went 260.5 on her second attempt, so to quite significantly break the squat record. So I went first on my second, 255.5 world record attempt. My second squat I actually missed. So on the video, Aaron was filming from the front, and I couldn't see this when I watched it on the live stream as well, but from the video that Aaron gave me, you really see my left knee collapse and everything shifted right, and then I had to have the spotters grab it. Everything felt okay on my walkout, and on the descent, all I remember is all of a sudden I was sort of shifting right, left knee had caved. I came off the platform and said to Ryan, my left knee caved in the hole. And at that point, it was sort of a time for a quick body scan. Am I okay, first of all? Nothing felt like it was injured or tweaked or hurt from that. So I was like, yeah, we'll go out for a third attempt and just try and stay a little bit tighter, see if I can correct that. For my third attempt, we had to go, so my second attempt was 255.5. For my third, we were forced to change it to 257.5 because Kelsey had been successful on her second attempt of 260.5. So 255.5 was no longer a world record, so it has to go up to the next multiple of 2.5. there was no real option for that. So it was like, that kind of sucks that it's going to be 2 kilos more when I just missed my second. But hey, I know that I'm capable of this. So just do everything right and you should be able to get it. So my third attempt, my walkout didn't feel great. I know I remembered that. It felt like the bar rolled down my back a little bit as I was taking it out of the rack. But I was able to keep positioning, came out of the hole pretty good, and my positioning felt pretty good. At the top, I felt like I got a little bit pitched forward, just with the bar sliding down my back a little bit. But it was one of those, I know I can stand here with it all day, and then the spotters will help me into the rack, so I'll be okay. I ended up getting 2 white lights on that one. I got called for depth from the right-hand side, but 2 white lights on that one, so it was a good lift. So I finished my squats with 257.5. So Kelsey went 265.5 on her third attempt and was successful with that lift. So after squats, Kelsey was in first with 265.5. I was in the silver medal for squats with 257.5, and Antonia Marshenko from Ukraine was in third with her squat of 240 kilos. When I'm telling you numbers here, basically when lifting is going on, I have no idea where things are at. I leave full faith in my coaches. My husband Ryan was there coaching me, as well as Jeff Butt and Aaron Ziffel. Jeff started coaching me in the sport. He's coached me at, I don't even know how many world championships and national championships and I trust him and Ryan and Aaron fully with numbers. So I had no idea sort of what attempts other people were taking, or if they were making them or missing them. I live in a bubble when I compete. So moving on to bench. We only had 7 inner flights, so we only had a 20-minute break between squats and bench. So it was a quick turnaround. I stripped my squat suit off as fast as we could. Started warming up for benches. My first couple of bench attempts, or bench warm-ups, with like bar 50, 70, felt really horrible in my wrists. Because of how far the bar had rolled down in my wrists on my third squat. Even on my first warm-up with just the bar, it was like, oh, there is a ton of pressure in my wrists that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to handle over 170 kilos in these, so we'll see how it goes. I think I started wrapping my wrists for 70 kilos, which I typically don't wrap any of my warm-up sets, or any of my raw warm-up sets. But wrapping them, okay, that took away the pain, that supported them enough that it was okay, and from there I didn't notice my wrists anymore. We put on my shirt. I did 2 warm-ups in my shirt. I did, I think, 160 to a 4 wrap, and then 172.5 to a 2 wrap. Just the way that the touch was on the 172.5 and the press was a little bit slower than I would have liked it to be. I looked at Ryan and was like, let's lower my opener. There's no point in risking anything. So we had put my opener in at 180.5, which would have been the world record on the opener. There was full intentions of leaving that as is if warm-ups had felt good. But since they didn't quite feel as spectacular as I would like them to, we dropped it to 175 just to be sure, to keep making sure we were getting the kilos there. So 175 opening attempt was good. It was harder to touch than I anticipated. The shirt felt like it was fitting a little bit tighter than maybe it should have been. My body weight was down probably about 1 to 2 kilos, like just in the morning, without any water cutter manipulation from what it had been in the weeks prior. So I'm not sure if I either like bloated up after weigh-ins with the food and stuff I took in, or if it had something to do with the bar rolling down in my wrists and just forearms flaring up a little bit, so a little bit more blood and swelling in them, which made it be fitting tighter in the arms. But either way, it just felt like it was fitting a little bit differently than it had in training. So we still, for my second attempt, went 181, actually. We didn't go to 180.5 because then we would have only had the 0.5 kilo, which Kelsey already had a 0.5 in the squats. So we needed to get that extra 0.5 on her since she was lighter than I was. So we went 181 to get that. So world record attempt on my second, which was successful. Still, the touch felt like it was harder than it should have been. And the press wasn't quite as snappy as I would have expected it to be, but regardless, a good lift. Then third attempt, we went 186 to try and bump up that world record and again get that extra half kilo on Kelsey's subtotal. 186 for my third attempt was a good lift as well. It was a little bit sort of lagging on the right hand side. If you watch the video, you can see my right side locks out a little bit lower and sort of rotating that way. And that's something that I've been sort of fighting with for the last while, is that right side not lagging a little bit. But still, regardless, a good lift and things felt good. I didn't feel like I had a ton more there, so that felt like good number calling. So after benches, my subtotal was at 443.5. Kelsey's was at 435.5, and Antonia's was at 410, and Marte Elvrum's from Norway was at 377.5. So my deadlift opener was in at 195. Kelsey had also put hers in at 195. However, they did bump it up before deadlift started to 205. So that moved her into the lead based on projected openers. But deadlift warm-ups felt really good. Everything felt like it was moving solidly. I had no concerns with opening with 195. I knew that would be an easy lift, so we left it at that. My last warm-up was 185. So 195 opening attempt was good. So after Kelsey changed her opening attempt to 205 kilos, she was 2 kilos ahead of me based on prognosis total. So basically, I just had to make attempts. My second attempt, we went to 207.5. Kelsey went 217.5 to again stay 2 kilos ahead of me after seconds. So for my third attempt, we went 215 kilos. The thought process when it's in that tight of a battle is that because she's in the lead after seconds, I need to put something on the bar that we are 100% sure I can lift. And hopefully that jump is enough that she might not be able to lift it. So it was a 7.5 kilo jump from my second to my third. So 207.5 to 215. And I pulled 215. It was a bit of a struggle, but probably not my slowest deadlift, and positioning felt like it stayed relatively good. It was just a waiting game after that. There was a couple of lifters between myself and Kelsey. At that point, I sort of started glancing at the score sheet. So yeah, I was like, cool, I'm sitting in gold medal position right now. If Kelsey misses her third, I finish in gold overall. If she gets her third attempt, she takes the win and I move to silver. So her third attempt was 225, which would have given her a 660.5 total. And she pulled it. It slowed down a little bit above her knees. Her right hand was starting to open up a little bit, but she was able to hang on and locked it out. And really, there was no question in my mind at that point. It was a good lift. There was nothing that could be called. So that bumps me into silver medal position. And she finishes with the win. So looking back on my performance, really what like a wild, crazy day. So going into this meet, the goal was to win. I won't hide that point. I knew based on training that my total would be around what the world record total is, which typically gives you a good chance of winning. And you could call it a bit of an outlier year in that previous world champions weren't there. Anna and Priscilla weren't competing this year, so it was somebody else's turn to win. So at the end of the day, Kelsey totaled 660.5 and I totaled 658.5. Both those totals were over the previous world record. Priscilla had set the world record total last year at Worlds with 654. So I beat it by 4.5 and then Kelsey beat it by 6.5. It's hard to complain about that sort of day when, okay, cool, I did break the world record total because I did it before Kelsey. My squat was over what the world record had been previously, which was a record from 2013 Worlds by Anna. Kelsey lifted crazy 8 kilos more than that on her squat. But still, my bench was a world record for the 3 lift and bench only. And it was over it by 5 kilos or 5.5 kilos. So all in all, a good day at 23 kilo PR total. My Wilks was 649, which was a PB as well. So PBs across the board, but I finished in silver. So it's one of those funny things because am I happy with how I lifted? Yes. Am I happy with where the outcome or where I finished placing wise? Well, no, because the goal was gold. But this sport is a funny thing in that way, in that you can have the absolute best day of your life. And I've said this to people so many times. You can have the best day of your life and somebody else comes in and they're just stronger than you. So that's where things finish up. Looking back through my lifting or through my lifts that day, there's not a lot that we could have changed. Sure, I could have made my second squat and maybe we would have gone 261 on my third attempt. But then you don't know how that might impact you. Maybe you'll miss it and then you're down 2 kilos. Maybe you'll get it, but then that'll impact bench or deadlift more. So you can play as many what ifs as you want, but at the end of the day, it really just matters what you do versus everybody else. So it's back to the drawing board for basically another year, looking to come back and get that open gold. So basically it comes down to having PRs in everything sometimes isn't enough. And you have to figure out how you're going to be satisfied with that, and use it as motivation and fuel instead of just being upset about it and demotivating. And it can sometimes be hard when it feels like, okay, I did everything I possibly could. And lots of times Ryan and I will talk about it's that last 1%, like nutrient timing that I worked on with Kristen leading into this event. That's your maybe 1 to 2%. And then when it comes down to it and you look at the results and it's like, okay, we're separated by like 0.1%. So now we're into the nitty gritty, fine tuned details that are sometimes hard to control. One thing that Detmar Wolf said to me and Ryan after I competed and Kelsey had won, that's really stuck with me, is he said, it's not only us that train. And that's so true with this sport. You can have the absolute best day that you possibly can, but somebody else has trained just as hard as you have and they had a bit better day. Detmar is somebody who I highly respect, Detmar Wolf. He's the team coach for Germany and he used to be the team coach for Norway. I've known him for, I don't know, probably 10 plus years. And yeah, it's just really stuck with me. We've talked about, Ryan and I have talked about it a number of times in the last couple of days, how that's just the reality of the sport. And sometimes it's hard to take, but you have to figure out how it's going to motivate you for the future. So all in all, that's sort of my recap of how Worlds this year went. We've gotten tons of good feedback from you guys, thanking us for putting out these videos, giving you a glimpse of some of the, if you want to call it, behind the scenes stuff. I really appreciate you guys reaching out to us, engaging with us, asking questions, just letting me know that, hey, we've really enjoyed this. We're not sure really where we're going to go from here as far as these video type series. If there's anything that you would like to see, let us know. But a couple of thank yous I just want to give and sort of put out there. First of all, to Blaine. What would it be, like 18 months ago or so? After Nationals 2017, I reached out to him, like I've talked about before, and just needed to make a change, make progress. The biggest thing that's changed to me since making that change is my passion for the sport has really come back because I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and my training, I'm no longer just going through the motions. Looking back at results, to me, it's kind of crazy. So I had a couple of people message me and were like, whoa, it's crazy that since 2008 Worlds, you've put like almost 100 Wilks points on, which is pretty cool. So 2008 Worlds was probably for a long time, I considered it my best meet. It was the old weight class of 75 kilos. I totaled 577.5 and finished in the silver medal position. Since then, up until now, up until this year, I have never finished in silver again. I finished in bronze a couple of times and finished off the podium a couple of times, but never silver. So I'm taking away that as a win. But between 2008 and 2016, I put 12.5 kilos on my total. So 577.5 total at Worlds in 2008. And then in 2016 at North Americans and at Open Worlds, I totaled 590. At that point in time, when I started looking at it from that perspective, I was starting to get really frustrated, which is why Ryan really encouraged me to reach out to somebody else, and we decided on Blaine. So it's pretty crazy to me that in 2 years, I've put 68.5 kilos on my total when I'm far removed from being a new lifter. So much of that has been just having more intention and thought process behind my training. When I go into a session, I'm focused for that session. And then just having Blaine to toss ideas back and forth between him encouraging me to try new things that maybe I was stuck in my ways before. So it's really gotten me back into that growth mindset with the sport and trying to improve that way and just keep on learning. The second person I wanted to thank is Kristen Lander from Fiercely Fueled Nutrition. I started working with her after Iron Sisters in July. That's where we met. And at that point in time, I had been thinking, hey, maybe I need to work with somebody for my nutrition, wanting to look at sort of that nutrient timing component. She did a presentation at Iron Sisters, and I was like, hey, I think this might be a sign that she's somebody I should try. So about 14 weeks out from Worlds, we started working together. At that point in time, I was 78 kilos, which is sort of normal for me to be that far out from a competition. Ideally, obviously, I would live around 72, but life happens. I don't track macros, and I eat like crap, and then end up weighing 78 kilos. We ended up getting down to 72 before I competed. I didn't have to do a water cut, which is my desire. I can do water cuts for Westerns in September. I cut like 2.5 kilos from the morning of, and it wasn't a big deal. But it's not a fun thing to do, especially when you have to do 3 lifts and you're never going to get that quality of weight back on again. So just working with her was fabulous. It took the mental side out of things. I've tracked macros for a long time, so that's not a challenging part, but the challenging part is, okay, I've weighed this number for the last 3 days. I should change things. When you're working with somebody, there is no thought into changing things. It's like, whatever she tells me to do, I will do. So that was a really good change for me for this comp. The other people I want to thank are the Team Canada head coach, Jeff Butt. Like I said, he's coached me, I don't even know how many times. I've known him since I started lifting, and he knows exactly what I need to be told, what I don't need to be told on game days. So having people around me that I'm familiar with and that I trust fully completely takes the pressure off. Like I said, I don't look at the score sheet when I'm competing because I have trust that they're making the right calls. As well, to all of my training partners, we have an amazing club in Moose Jaw at Red Goat, and then within that we have our Unparalleled club. With equipped lifting, you do need a team, or I think you need a team, and I cannot tell you the number of times that people have either come in or maybe stayed late after their workout to give me a spot to make sure that nothing bad happened. Then I have a couple of people that I need to thank and give a shout out to as far as like therapy rehab goes. Otis Kveteris from Ontario, I cannot tell you how many videos I've sent him and been like, what do you see? Do you see anything? And he is always so willing to give me that feedback and tell me you need to go get this treated, do this rehab. And he is just simply amazing at what he does. And I'm so grateful for his willingness to share everything that he knows. My physiotherapist, Lynn Brochu, I've talked about her a couple of times through this series. She is unlike any other physio I've been to, and I honestly don't think I would still be lifting if it weren't for her. Back in 2015, I was having some issues that I couldn't squat because of something that was going on in my calf. I still don't know what caused it, other than it just stress manifesting itself is basically the conclusion that I've come to in my calf and not allowing me to squat. She figured out what it was after I'd been to numerous other therapists in town to try and deal with it, and gave me some cues that fixed it that day in her office. And since then, I've probably seen her every 4 to 6 weeks just to stay on top of things, deal with issues as they come up, and sort of maintain that way. As well, I've got 2 massage therapists in Moose Jaw that I see, Chelsea Howe and Lynn Bowerin, that just keep me, again, performing at the level that I need to. The other person that I need to give a special thanks to is my husband, Ryan. He puts up with my crazy, obsessive, expensive powerlifting habit, although it's kind of his expensive powerlifting habit too, and just supports me in every way that he can. He helps me with my nutrition to stay on track that way, and training. I can't tell you the number of days that he's come in when he is supposed to have a day off and is just there to support and spot and lift off. So I don't think I could be doing this sport without him as well. And finally, to you guys, thank you for watching this long video this week, and for all of your messages of support and encouragement throughout this whole training cycle, and especially since I competed on Thursday. Your support and love is greatly appreciated. So thank you again for following along with this journey and encouraging me to share this process leading up to Worlds. I've been getting asked a lot in the last couple of days what my plans are from here, where I'm going to compete next. Honestly, before Worlds, I didn't give a whole lot of thought to that because I just wanted all of my focus and energy to be going into Worlds. The next thing coming up will be Nationals for sure in March in Ottawa. At this point, I'm leaning towards focusing on equipped for the next few years. World Games 2021 is an equipped championship. They announced that for sure 100% at this year's Congress. So that's obviously going to be a goal of mine to compete at my 4th World Games. So I think prioritizing and focusing on equipped is likely a smart move for me. We're talking about maybe doing either the Arnold or Bench Worlds as a bench only meet somewhere in the spring. I've tossed around maybe North Americans, partly because it's in Costa Rica, and then next year's World Championship in Dubai. So Nationals for sure, Worlds for sure, everything between that is still up in the air. Thank you for tuning into all of these videos. If there's anything that you'd like us to cover that maybe doesn't relate specifically to my training, but is just more stuff in general, be sure to let us know. And I'll say it again. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for all of your support and encouragement. And we'll see you sometime soon.